Hi you guys, welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about, does God exist? So many people are struggling with this and wondering and asking the question, and I'm just going to try and explain to you why I feel that God does exist. So many people are saying, if God really exists, why is there so much pain and suffering in the world? Why does women and children get molested and raped? Why does people get beaten and murdered? Why does all these bad things happen in life? So I'm just going to try and explain to you how I see it and why I believe that God does exist. And to begin with, I want to tell you the story about the barber and one of his customers that went to cut his hair at the barber shop. So this one man went to the barber shop to cut his hair, and while the barber was cutting his hair, they were talking, and it came to the subject of God. And the barber said that God doesn't exist. So the man asked him, why does he say that? So the barber told him to go into the street, to go see how many children is suffering and sitting in the street without houses. Why there's so many abandoned people sitting on the street and have no place to go. So much pain, so much suffering in the streets. And you can't imagine that if there is someone like a loving and caring God, that there's so many problems in the world, so much pain, so much suffering in the world. So the man just sat there and didn't say anything, and he waited for the barber to finish. And when he was done, he stood up and he went outside into the street, and he found a man there with very long dirty hair hanging in strings and a big beard that wasn't trimmed for a while, and the guy was dirty and really not looking good. So he took that dirty man into the barber shop with him, and he told the barber that barbers doesn't exist. So the barber said to him, how can it be? I just worked on you, I just cut your hair. You know barbers exist. I was just busy with you a few seconds ago. So the man said to him, no, barbers does not exist, because if barbers exist, there would have been no men with long hair and untrimmed beard. Everybody's hair would have been neat, and everybody's beard would have been neat. But this man has got long hair and dirty hair with untrimmed beard, so he's very sure that barbers did not exist. So the barber said to him, but that doesn't mean that barbers does not exist. That only means that people doesn't come to him so that he can cut their hair. It doesn't mean that they don't exist. If the people comes to him, then he can fix their hair. That's not to say because there's people with long hair and dirty beards that barbers does not exist. So the customer told him that's exactly what he's saying about God. People are sitting with all these problems, with all this pain, with all this suffering, but they just don't go to God. They just don't take their problems to God. They want to handle everything by themselves. And that's why there's so much pain and suffering in the world. It doesn't mean that God's not there. God is there. It's just people that doesn't want to go to God and ask God for His help. The Bible tells us to put our problems at God's feet and forget about them. But we don't want to do that. And when we do it, we just leave it there for a day or two, and then we go back and grab it and we want to solve it ourselves. And then when things go wrong, we want to say, there's no God and God doesn't exist because why does this or that happens? We should really leave our stuff at God, all our problems and things that bothers us in the world. We must give it to God and leave it for Him so that He can sort it out for us. There once also was this old lady. She was a widow and she was very poor. And every night she prayed to God to fill up her spends. She prayed that He must fill up her spends so much that the food would not even fit into the spends. Then one morning when she woke up, she heard there was a knock on the door. So she went outside, and when she opened the door, there was so much food, it couldn't even fit in the spends. There was so much food, it couldn't even fit in the kitchen. She would have had to pack it in the living room and everywhere because there was just so much food. And she immediately fell on her knees and she prayed and she thanked God for all the food. And while she was praying, her neighbor, who was an atheist, jumped out behind the bushes and he said, yes, I've got you. He said, you are praying to a God that doesn't exist. You thank a God that doesn't exist. It wasn't God that gave you this food. It was I who gave you the food. I heard you praying one night and you were asking for food. So I went and I bought all this food just to see your happiness and just to show you that God doesn't exist and that it was me who bought this food for you. And you fall on your knees and you thank God for that. But she did not care about what he was saying. She was just so happy and praising God and praying and saying thank you for God. And he got angry and he said, no, it wasn't God, it was me. I bought the food. I heard you praying and I bought the food and I gave it to you. And the lady opened her eyes and she looked at him and she says, you don't understand. It was God who gave me the food. And he only let the devil pay for it. And that just shows you, it's always God. Everything that happens to us in the world is God. That guy tried to catch her and telling her there's no God and it was him that bought the food. But what that guy didn't understand is that it was God that gave her the food and he only made him pay for it. Sometimes people think they are clever and they think they can play with God or catch God's people. But at the end of the day, you will lose because there is a God. And he sees everything and he knows about everything. So I just want to read for you in Psalm 118. The Lord is with me. He is my helper. I will look in triumph on my enemies. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes. I believe that this psalm was written by King David, although the Bible doesn't tell us who did write this psalm, but it does appear to be King David who did write this psalm. And when he was writing it, he was the king, and even he told the people not to trust in him, but to trust in God. He was the king, he was leading the people. But even him, King David, who killed Goliath and who killed lions, told the people to trust in God and not in him. You know, David was a young man in the field and he had lots of animals and things in front of him who wanted to kill him. But David had a personal faith in believing that God existed. Just as this old lady had personal faith in believing that God existed. And nobody was going to change that. Not for that lady, not for David. And that's how we should be. We should believe that God exists, and it doesn't matter who does what. We will always believe that. We must always believe that. In today's world, we are running past everything. We are living so fast. Everything is just going by so fast. When last did we stop and just look at everything that God made? You know, just 2 days ago or so, I was outside walking, and just here next to me, very close to me, like a meter away, there was these little mosses sitting there. And they actually were sitting in the sand, and they dug these little holes with their bodies, and then they went and lied in that dusty little holes. I don't know why they're doing that, maybe making themselves dirty, or I don't know, maybe baking in the hot sand or something. I don't know why they did that. And I just looked at him and I just thought, how amazing is it that God made these little birds just to do that thing, you know. I don't even know what I was thinking, but it was just for me so amazing to realize that the things that God made is so perfect. Look at us. God made us, and look at everything around us, the trees, and how everything just goes together. It's just so amazing. If people want to tell me there's no God, where is all this stuff coming from? Why is everything here? Why are we here? I'm telling you, where I'm sitting here today, God does exist. And don't let anybody else tell you anything else about this. Because it's like I'm saying, just go stand outside and look at the stars, look at the sun, the moon, the trees, everything that's out there. And how everything just works together. Something can't live without something else. Everything is just so perfect. And the only reason why it's like that is because of God. And when we believe in God, like that old lady believed in God, she prayed and then she got something. You know, I've told you last week what happened to my wife and me and my kids and whatever, and that same thing basically happened to us, where we have also prayed sometimes and we said, God, we don't know what's going to happen, or where's our food going to come from, or things like that. And all of a sudden there was just money in the bank, or someone just came and dropped a sheep. Maybe they said, oh, we've actually slaughtered 2 sheep, we don't know why, we were supposed to do 1 and we don't know what to do with that one, all kinds of excuses, but we just got food. And it was God that gave us that food. Although we used that people to bring the food to us, it was Him at the end of the day that told that people to bring us the food. So there's nothing that people will do to you and say, no, I did this out of myself, nobody told me, I was just a good guy and that's why I bring it to you. It will never be like that. No person can just be good and bring you something without God telling him to do that. So it doesn't matter what happens in life. If you walk past someone and he gives you 500 rand in the street, he gave you that 500 rand because God told him to do that. There's no man in this world that can do any good or anything out of himself. It will always be God. It will always be the Holy Spirit that leads us and guides us to do these good things at the end of the day. So you guys, I just want to ask you to please subscribe to the channel and like and share the channel. Things are moving very slowly. You know, with my one video that went over 1,000 views, I really thought this channel is gonna grow very quickly now, but it's standing still at the end of the day. Nothing is happening, and I would really like to reach more people. You know, maybe someone needs to hear something that I'm saying. I know I'm not like doing this for too long, and I'm maybe not good enough for some people yet, but I do feel that I just want to tell you what God wants me to tell you. I don't want to just go and study and make up these long speeches of 30 minutes or an hour and try to keep you busy to make views or stuff on YouTube, like I always say. But I would really like it if everybody that is subscribed just go and watch all my videos and go like my videos and comment if you want to comment, so that this videos or this channel can also grow and get more people. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, full of miracles, and please believe me when I tell you, God does exist. God bless you. Goodbye.